a self-defense event happens in seconds. And in the time it takes to listen to this commercial, your life could change forever. I pray you're never forced to shoot in self-defense. But if you must, then you must be ready. That's why the USCCA exists. Because every responsibly armed American should have the training and education to navigate a self-defense situation. And should you ever need it, the 24/7 critical response team is right there for you. To discover more about USCCA, visit uscca.com/GOR. Act now, because the life you save could be your own. That is uscca.com/GOR.
Awesome.
Hey, what's going on today?
Well, today's topic, we're going to talk about SB2 and what a disaster it is for California.
Super Bowl.
It is the Super Bowl. If you're,
different SB2.
Yeah.
Okay, moving right along.
Yeah, not that. Yeah, I had no idea it was the Super Bowl until 3 seconds before we went on air. I'm like, what? That's today?
Why is everybody wearing green and red?
I had no idea. I'm totally out of touch. I used to be a huge NFL fan,
I
too.
thought you were.
Huge. I was a huge NFL fan. I'm totally disconnected. It's just not fun anymore.
I know.
These guys are, everybody's too strong. They're too fast. It's too calculated.
Yeah.
I don't know. Right. I think, honestly, NFL peaked in the 80s. And then it just, 90s it started going downhill.
I totally agree with you. The money, too much money.
So I want to talk about a few things. So we're going to talk about SB2. We're going to talk about it with a lot of interesting people. We're going to run it by John Lott. If you don't know who John Lott is, he is the, how would you describe John Lott, Alicia? The premier
economist,
statistician when it comes to gun stats and that sort of thing. And, of course, one of the premier trainers. You know him from Active Self-Protection. John Correia is going to be on. We're going to auction John off. So he wants to kind of come on and talk about that. And then we're going to talk to Dement from Franklin Armory. And speaking of John Correia and auctioning him off, we are right in the middle of an auction. Did you check it out yet, Dave?
Yes, I did.
Are you impressed by anything? Or I got to tell you, there's a lot of really impressive collectibles and all kinds of stuff.
He's a little choked up over there.
Yeah, he's all.
I know.
You're getting emotional.
I know. I got choked up.
Don't worry. This part's not going to make it to air. We're going to edit this all out, so don't worry about that.
Famous last words.
We'll cut that all this right out.
No, I thought it was a great auction. I haven't looked at it lately. What's the numbers?
Well, one of the big things that so there's a lot of really cool collectibles, a lot of really cool firearms. There's some trips. There's all kinds of cool stuff. But one thing I want to make clear to everybody listening is all the memberships are discounted. So whether you live in Inland Empire, Orange County, San Diego, go on there, renew your membership. Even if you're not due for like 6 months or whatever, we're just going to tack it on to the end of that. But you can get it, like, for example, a 10-ring membership, normally $1,000, it's only $600. So all of them are discounted. So go on there, renew your membership. If you're in Inland and you buy a membership, you're going to be a member of Inland. If you're in Orange, you buy a membership, Orange, San Diego, et cetera, et cetera. So go on there and check that out.
You can do one or all.
Well, you just buy a membership, and your location will determine where your membership is.
Gotcha.
So if you buy a membership and your address is Inland Empire somewhere, Inland Empire. Orange. Your address is San Diego. So just buy the membership, get the discount. Perfect opportunity for you to upgrade and check out, see what it's like, in the fancy section of the membership seats, or So one thing we're going to do, I think it's really important. We have such a huge footprint now all across Southern California. We're going to bring on the executive directors in the 4 o'clock segment and let everybody know what's going on for just a few minutes. So let's kick it off with Heather Hawk from Orange County. How are you, Heather?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Fantastic. What's going on with Orange County gun owners?
Well, I wanted to add something in there really quick before we do that with the membership specials. Definitely everyone should look at the legacy because they get to go on Gun Owners Radio as part of the perks. So I just want to make sure you guys know that.
You going to bid on that, Dave?
Absolutely. Oh, no, I'm already there.
But, yeah, so just getting back to Orange County, we had a tabletop today at the Golden West Swap Meet, and I was like you, Michael Schwartz. I was like, where is everybody? And then it dawned on me, it's Super Bowl Sunday.
Totally missed that. But it went well?
Yeah.
Otherwise, it was kind of slow?
Good. It was good. We had a lot of good conversations on there, and I had actually a person that I was talking to about becoming a legacy member stop in, so we were chatting for a little bit too. So it was cold though for California. We were all bundled up.
Excellent. All right. Anything else happening in Orange County?
The main thing we're really pushing that online auction. We want everybody to check out all those good items and everything. So we've got our monthly meeting coming up and our CCW seminar. Those are later here in February on the 22nd and the 27th. But that's our main thing is we want people to bid on all those items on the auction. We hope somebody gets something good. That the final call-in is on February 16th, Thursday. The close of the auction. Yep. So that's a countdown to the close. The close of the auction is going to be at 8 p.m. So we'll have a Zoom link for everybody to dial in, and they can watch online, and just we can all get together and count it down and see who gets the big prizes. So
Super Bowl, Valentine's Day, and then auction, gun auction, online gun auction. This is the most romantic week I think ever. This is really amazing. Excellent.
Yeah, get your lady something nice at the auction.
So for more info, go to ocgunowners.com, and you can see all the information for the CCW seminar. You can see the information for the auction and see the information for your monthly meeting, right?
Yep, it's all up there
Great.
on there.
Thank you, Heather. Awesome job. Let's move on to Carla in Inland Empire. What's going on in Inland Empire?
Hey, how's it going?
Fantastic.
We have our Riverside CCW coming up on Wednesday.
Okay.
And we have not one but two tabletops next Saturday. First one will be at Bass and Brass in Marietta, and will also be at Turner's in Ontario. Those are both on Saturday between the hours of 10 and 4 p.m. So if you're out there going shopping, looking for something to do, come out and say hi.
Very, very cool. Awesome job. You guys do a great job with your tabletops. You're all over the place in Inland Empire, and thank you so much. Fantastic job, Carla.
Absolutely. And then we have our monthly meeting in 2 weeks on the 25th from 1 to 3 at Riverside Indoor Shooting Range.
Perfect. Join Carla. Come see what's going on.
Yeah.
Have a lot of fun. Have some free pizza.
Yep. Come out, say hi. Let me know that you heard us on the radio.
Yeah, and get involved.
Yes.
Excellent job. Thank you, Carla. Awesome job. Okay, and our newest executive director, Gail Raymer from San Diego, for San Diego County Gun Owners.
Oh, congratulations.
Hey, Gail.
Ta-da.
The new kid on the block.
How's it going, Gail?
Mike looks so rested.
But does he know
I'm
what time
glad
it
to
is?
hear it.
Did you say rested or rusted? Because
Rested.
it feels more
Rested.
rusted than...
You do. You look a little bit more relaxed.
Oh, well, there you go.
Got some pressure taken off.
I missed the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I'm glad I could help with that.
So how has it been so far? You've only been on the job for 12 days. No, 11 days.
And the first week was a lot of learning. I did get to go out to a Not Me shooting social yesterday.
I saw the pictures.
And I hit the two tabletops, and got to meet with some of our great volunteers. And I just look forward to getting to meet everybody at some point.
Awesome. And you're going to be at all three of our monthly meetings, which are coming up next week, not this week. A little confusing because it's normally the third week, and the week started, or the month started in the middle of the week. So it's not this week. It's next week. It's next, a week from Tuesday, a week from Wednesday, a week from Thursday. So come out, meet Gail, and have some fun, learn to see what we're doing, and of course, get involved in the auction, right?
Absolutely.
All right. Awesome. Anything else? What else would you like? Anything else? Any other message you want to send to San Diego?
I'm glad to be here. Can't wait to get this going.
Well, we're going to have a lot of fun because it takes enthusiastic folks like yourself to make this work. Thank you very much, Gail.
So John Lott has been one of the most productive and cited economists in the world. Among economists, businesses, and law professors, his research is currently the 15th most downloaded in the world.
Wow.
Stay tuned for John Lott up next.
Hey, but first, if you have legal matters that involve firearms, then you need to call California firearms lawyer John Dillon, especially if you have questions about red flag laws, gun registration, gun transportation, or maybe you need to know that your guns are California compliant. Call our trusted firearms attorney, John Dillon. John Dillon specializes in California gun laws. 760-642-7150, or visit the website at dillonlawgp.com.
So we're interviewing my favorite economist, John Lott. He wrote one of my favorite books, which I, in no uncertain terms, would describe this book that he wrote as life-changing for me. It's called More Guns, Less Crime. Came out back in the late 90s. I think it came out in, I want to say it came out in 98. I read it a few years after. And I recommend everybody out there pick up that book. Truly, truly eye-opening. And the fact that John was an economist and came to this conclusion, more guns, less crime, through his training, with numbers and as an economist. He's now the president of the Crime Prevention Research Center, and you may have seen him on TV, radio, print. He's all over the place. It's very, very much my pleasure to interview you, John. How are you doing?
Doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Now, did you know that statistic that among economists, business and law professors, that you are the 15th most downloaded in the world?
Yeah, I guess I knew of that. So, anyway,
that's awesome. I think it's what a testament to how innovative and important and interesting your work is, and congratulations for that.
Well, thanks. I appreciate you having me on.
For those that aren't familiar, can you you just give us some background? How did you get into the statistics that led to your work around firearms and Second Amendment issues?
Well, I mean, a lot of economists deal with crime. Economics has a couple basic points, but one of them is if something's more costly, people do less of it. If there's a greater return, people do more of it. And just like if the price of apples go up, people buy fewer apples. If it's riskier, if it's more difficult for criminals to go and commit crime, they do less crime. I mean, there's a lot of permutations on that, but that basic point, applies to lots of different areas in people's lives. And economists, that's one of the things we study. So, I was teaching. I'd been involved in crime a lot. I'd been chief economist for the U.S. Sentencing Commission. And I was teaching a class on crime at Wharton. I was at the Wharton Business School for 4 years. And I made the mistake of telling the students that we were ahead in the syllabus. And a couple of the students came up to me after class and asked me, they said, well, they knew it wasn't perfectly on point for the class, but given that we were ahead in the syllabus, would I mind giving a lecture on gun control? And I'd read some papers in the area that were really poorly done, but I assumed that there were other good papers there. But if I was going to speak on it, it kind of forced me to more systematically go through the literature. And when you're an academic, you do papers because you have a new idea or you think you can do a better job. In this case, I just thought I could do a better job, and one thing kind of led to another. And I decided to go and do some work in it, and I ended up getting attention, and it was hard to get away from it because I think I had been involved in a lot of academic debates, but never one where there was so much misinformation there. And I guess I just thought if I didn't stick around and do the discussion, nobody would.
What's an example of the misinformation? Like, what's just one example of something that people were misinformed about?
Oh, I mean, there's so many things there. One claim that I think is particularly pernicious is the claim that the United States is somehow unique in terms of mass public shootings. And yet, what you find is that the United States actually has about 1% of the world's mass public shooters, even though we make up about 4.6% of the world population. So we're way, way, way below the average in terms of mass public shootings. So what happens is people also don't take into account how large of a country we have. We have over 330 million people. You look at countries in Europe, you have a number of countries that are like 5 million people or 10 million. Even the largest country in Europe, Germany, has 80 million people. So it's less than a quarter the size of ours. And you have to adjust for the fact that they just don't have that many people. Nobody would compare the total number of murders in Rhode Island with California or something like that. they'd put it in terms of per capita rates, because you have a lot more people there, you're going to have more murders. But yet they don't do that when it comes to things like mass public shootings. They don't do it when they talk about school shootings or other types of things. And when you do that, you realize that there are a number of countries in Europe that have higher per capita rates in terms of mass public shootings than we have here in the United States. It's just also that, and partly this is understandable, but attacks in the United States obviously get a lot more news coverage in our country than attacks in other countries do.
So,
but I mean, there's so many other things one could go into, just how people should behave when they're confronted by a criminal, and so on. So
if you're in a country where, well, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe this is a bad question. You tell me. You're really good at, I've asked you a lot of questions in the past, and you're always very good at correcting the quality of my questions, I guess, for lack of a better term. So maybe this is a bad question, but if you're in a country where guns are pretty much banned, and let's say it's a country that's, a tenth the size of the United States, so you would think that we would have at least 10 times as many, of these shootings, but they're a tenth the size, so, they have more. Maybe we only have, 5 times as many when we should have 10 times, even though we have 10 times the population. I don't know what country I'm really talking about here, but where guns are banned, so people would assume, hey, we have more shootings in the United States than this other country, when in fact, no, per capita, they have, 15 or 20 times as many, even though they have a tenth of the population. Where are they getting these guns? Did you ever, if you're in a country where guns are pretty much banned and they don't have gun shops, where are the firearms coming from? Is that something that your research has ever uncovered?
Right. Well, I mean, one of the major sources of illegal drugs in other places in the world, including the United States, are drug gangs. It's not like a drug gang or a drug dealer can go to the police and say, this other gang stole our drugs, can you help us get them back? The different drug gangs there have to have their own little militaries in order to protect that extremely valuable property that they have. And we know how difficult it is to go and stop drug dealers from getting a hold of drugs. It's equally hard, it seems, to be able to stop them from getting a hold of the guns that they use to go and protect that extremely valuable property that they have. And, you look at a country like Mexico, for example. Mexico, since 1972, has had only one gun store in the country. It's run by the military. Guns are extremely expensive. You have to pay over a $2,000 fee just to apply to be able to be considered for a license to be able to go and have a permitted gun. And less than 1/10 of 1% of the adult population is legally licensed to own a gun in Mexico. The most powerful gun you can been able to buy since 1972 in Mexico is a .22 caliber short round bolt action rifle. Those aren't what are being used by drug gangs, and yet their murder rate has more than doubled since that restriction went into effect. And in many recent years, they've had a murder rate that's 6 times higher than the murder rate in the United States. And it's basically the drug cartels there bring in drugs from around the world, and they bring in the weapons from around the world that they use to protect that extremely valuable property that they have. But, it's if I could click my fingers tomorrow and cause all guns in the United States to disappear and all illegal drugs, how long do you think it would be before illegal drugs started coming back into the United States?
Yeah.
20 minutes if you live in El Paso?
Yeah.
And how long would it be before they would bring in the weapons to protect that valuable property? The same amount of time.
That's interesting. So, I mean, is it reasonable? So, okay, so Mexico has, for all intents and purposes, almost it's really fairly impossible to own a firearm in Mexico, and it's definitely impossible.
Legally.
Legally. I guess what I'm saying is the average citizen in Mexico can't go purchase a center fire firearm with any kind of ease. I mean, it's almost non-existent that the average law-abiding citizen in Mexico has a firearm, but they still have extreme amounts of crime committed with a firearm, and that's coming from these drug cartels. But when you talk to people, especially gun control advocates, it's almost like that level of crime, those cartels, that crime with a firearm, it's like it doesn't count. Well, gee, that's not what we mean. We don't mean that kind of, quote unquote gun violence for whatever reason. I don't understand why they don't count that. But and because it doesn't fit their agenda is probably the reason why they don't count that. But
they exclude countries that they say aren't developed countries usually. And even though Mexico is a developed country by the standard of the OECD, kind of the club of developed countries. But, that's usually, it's just how they define what countries to include. Because if you include all the countries that are classified as developed countries, what you find is that the countries with the highest gun ownership rate tend to have relatively low homicide rates and relatively low firearm homicide rates.
Hey, folks, Orange County Gun Owners is dedicated to preserve and restore Orange County's self-defense rights. And if you live in Orange County and you want to help defend and restore their Second Amendment rights, you need to join OCGunOwners.com/join. Orange County Gun Owners is the do something organization to restore and defend the Second Amendment. Volunteers at a shooting social, at a gun shop, a tabletop, whatever you can do. Help us get more pro-gun local officials elected. Save the date. Orange County Gun Prom is May 20th. Become a member today. That's OCGunOwners.com/join. All right, back to John Lott.
John, we were talking about Mexico and the difference between, what they count as crime and gun violence and the difference between their gun ownership rates and crime rates and the United States, their gun ownership rates and crime rates. Is it reasonable to say that the high percentage of gun ownership in the United States is one of the factors and one of the main reasons that we don't have enormous drug cartels that have, basically taken over the country? John?
I'm not sure that that's it. I think there are a lot of things that determine how much corruption you have. I think one of the reasons why Mexico has the drug gang problem that they have is that they're next to the United States, and we have a big demand for illegal drugs. And so there are a lot of people there who make a big living going and supplying illegal drugs to the United States. They're a relatively poor country. They don't pay law enforcement as much as we pay our law enforcement and other similar issues. And so they have a lot more corruption there, and the drug gangs kind of fester there. We've had issues with prohibition in the United States. We had high murder rates there. We just put out a study a little while ago. 1% of the counties in the United States account for 42% of the murders.
Jeez.
The 5% worst counties account for 73% of the murders. By contrast, and even within those counties, murders are very heavily concentrated in tiny areas. In the worst 1%, most of those murders are in like 10 county blocks within those counties. And a lot of that is drug gang related. So we have one of the reasons why we have the murder rates that we do in the United States. Murder really isn't a national problem in the United States. It's very much a localized problem, but a lot of it has to do with drug gangs. So, we have our own problems with drug gangs here in the United States. It's not as much as it is in Mexico, but my own guess, just thinking off the top of my head, is that it probably has a lot more to do with the fact that Mexico has more corruption, in part because they don't pay their law enforcement and people in the legal system as much as we pay ours.
Well, is it reasonable through your research and just is it reasonable to say that, let's take Chicago, for example. Chicago is, huge crime. There's a lot of crime in Chicago, all kinds of different crime in Chicago. I would assume that is one of the areas in the top 1% that skews the numbers so much. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, that's right.
Okay, so if Chicago, is it reasonable to say, or is it just not that simple? That, hey, Chicago, you can now own a firearm, you can now carry a firearm for self-defense. Is it reasonable to say that over time will have a positive impact on Chicago's crime rates?
Oh yeah, sure. But you were asking specifically about drug gang violence.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely, no, totally different
research,
question. Yeah, totally different question. But yeah.
If my research convinces me of anything, the people who benefit the most from having guns are the people who are most likely victims of violent crime. But, if you have more wealthy people living in the suburbs having permits, I mean, that's fine. But they're not the ones who are likely to be running into criminals. So you're not going to see the same reduction in violent crime as you would see if you make it so that the people who are likely to have crimes committed against them, like the ones you're talking about in Chicago, are the ones who are armed. It's one of the things with California and places like Illinois is how difficult and costly it is. They make it for law-abiding poor people, minorities who live in high-crime urban areas, to be able to go and have guns for protection. You just compare Illinois and Indiana, two neighboring states that are fairly similar in many different ways. In Indiana, over 22% of the adult population is a concealed carry permit. In Illinois, it's about 4%. Why the difference? Well, it's pretty easy to explain. In Illinois, it costs about $450 to go through the process to get a concealed carry permit. In Indiana, it costs $0. To go through the whole process to go and get it. And so what you see in Illinois is basically wealthy whites who live in the suburbs are the ones who go and get permits. I mean, $450 to go through the fee for the permit and going through the training costs. And in Indiana, you see a lot more people who live in poor, heavily minority zip codes. A few years ago, I was able to go and get the list of all the concealed carry permit holders in Los Angeles County. And, when you have the May issue type rules where you have to go and convince some local Democratic public official to let you have a permit. And what you find is that, one, there are very few permits. There were like 341 permits that were there out of an adult population of over 8 million people. But only 7% of permit holders were women. Only 5% were black. Only 6.5% were Hispanic. You compare that to the rest of the country where people don't have to provide a good reason. Women make up about 30% of permit holders in the rest of the country. Blacks make up about 12%, which is about their share of the black population.
Wow.
And Hispanics, even though Hispanics make up 54% of the population in Los Angeles County, they only make up about 6.5% of the permit holders there. And it's just, maybe women and blacks and Hispanics just don't have crimes committed against them in Los Angeles. I don't really think that's the case.
I don't think so either.
But apparently the powers that be that determine whether or not somebody has a good reason to be able to go and protect themselves, the powers that be just don't view them as having good reasons.
So have you reviewed SB2, the proposal that SB2 is here in California?
I don't have it memorized what the different numbers are. Is this the new one for concealed carry that they have there?
Exactly.
I know what's generally in it. I know California, Newsom wants to kind of go and follow what's happened in New York and New Jersey in terms of essentially banning people to be able to go and carry concealed handguns practically any place within the state.
He wants to basically make everything a sensitive area. If that passes, and let's say there's no injunction, if it passes and it goes into practice, for whatever length of time, like let's pretend that nobody sues, nobody gets an injunction, you know what I mean? It just passes, and everywhere, for all intents and purposes, most places outside of your home are sensitive. What do you think that will do to California? How will that affect California?
Well, you have very few people that have permits to begin with in California,
That's true.
So it's not going to have a huge impact there in terms of changing things. I mean, it will prevent you from getting the benefits. So, like as of February a year ago, in Los Angeles County, there was like one permit holder for every 5,600 adults in the county. In San Mateo County, where they had another mass public shooting, there was one permit holder for every 24,000 adults in the county. Mass public shooters in California really haven't had much to worry about in terms of running into somebody who's going to be able to go and stop them. I think that's one of the reasons why you've had so many mass public shootings in California.
Which in the press conference, John, that's the press conference was the governor and the attorney general and a state senator, and it was kind of the premise. It was like, hey, we have all these mass shootings, therefore we're going to pass SB 2, which will limit where people can carry, and which is the exact opposite of what they should be doing. And a reporter even kind of brought it up. They said, well, what kind of problems have you had with CCW holders? And of course, the governor just, got mad, basically. Yeah, did no answer. He got mad and said, this is the kind of pushback that, stops success or whatever. Meanwhile, it was a very reasonable question by an unbiased reporter. I thought it was absolutely ridiculous. He was unable to answer it.
Well, I mean, they've had the same questions and the same reactions from politicians in New York. Kathy Hochul was asked when she was pushing for creating all these gun-free zones in New York. She was asked the same question and was also unable to answer it. And the reason why they can't answer it is because permit holders are incredibly law-abiding. And, what you find is that permit holders are convicted of firearms-related violations at 1/12 the rate that police are convicted of firearms-related violations.
I knew it was less. I didn't know it was 1/12. That is extremely significant.
Right. Well, I mean, those are the types of reports that we put out at our website at crimeresearch.org. But and officers are rarely convicted themselves of firearms-related violations at about 1/20th the rate of the general population.
Hey, did you know we have a world-class flight training school here in San Diego? Pilots can fly almost every day. We're close to the ocean as well as the desert and mountains. Well, SDFTI's instructors can help you learn to navigate around the international border and military bases. That's why San Diego is one of the best places to learn how to fly in the world. Learn to fly in sunny San Diego right there at Montgomery Field. Getting started is super easy. Just give them a call at 858-569-1822 or go to Learn to Fly with SDFTI. That's 858-569-1822.
So we're talking to John Lott, extremely interesting gun statistics and some of the conclusions that have come from your research. And I want to take a step back. And one of the things that is really impressive to me is we talked a little bit about how you got into this and how it got started, but you're not the NRA. You're not funded by the NRA. You didn't come about this. I guess what I'm saying is you weren't involved in Second Amendment activism, and if memory serves, you weren't like a big gun owner prior to this. You truly went into the research, did good science, and came to conclusions without having a preconceived notions. Is all that fair to say?
Right. I never owned a gun. Nobody in my family had owned a gun. I didn't grow up with anybody in my household or family owning a gun. So, yeah, no, I hadn't been involved with it. I probably would have been classified as being somewhat in the middle of the debate. I'm sure I was affected as much as others by, the violence that you see in the news coverage there. Now I kind of realize how biased the media coverage was, but I wouldn't have known that at the time.
Now, one of the things that I remember that I was really impressed with was some of the terminology that led to some of the misinformation. And I recall, if you don't mind talking about, there was a myth that you're more likely if you're killed by someone with a gun and you were in a relationship with them or something along those lines. And when you dug into that, you found out that it had to do with the way the FBI defined a relationship. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Well, I don't know. There are a number of points that might be related to what you're talking about. I mean, look, one of the things people hear is that over half murders in the United States involve acquaintance murders. And when people hear that, they're thinking about people who are somehow emotionally, attached to other people. And that's simply wrong. The vast majority of acquaintance murders involve rival gang members. I mean, it's very common for the members of one gang to know who the members of another gang are. But acquaintance murders are much broader than most people might think. So, for example, if a robber goes up to the side of a taxi cab and robs and kills the taxi cab driver, that's classified as a stranger murder. But if the robber is in the back of the cab and is getting a ride from the cab driver there and robs him and kills him at that point, that's classified as an acquaintance murder because of the perceived financial relationship that existed between the robber and the taxi cab driver. So,
and that's that's the point right there, John, because it's so misleading. It's frankly dishonest of the other side. They make it sound as if there are millions of cases of people who are dating or married, and they kill each other with a gun, and that's somehow a likely scenario. When the reality is, it's not like that at all.
Look, I mean, there are tons of misinformation that's out there, and it's, the news media has a big impact on people's perceptions. Entertainment television does. A couple of years ago, we went through all the TV cop shows on ABC, CBS, NBC, and Fox. About 85% of the guns that were fired by criminals in their TV cop shows were machine guns. If you look up since the 1930s, there's been one murder in the United States involving a machine gun. You could watch one episode of Magnum PI or something, and you think that, more people are killed in Hawaii on any given day with machine guns than in the entire United States since the 1930s. It's not surprising that so many people are in favor of gun control. When you constantly hear about bad things that happen in the news with guns and virtually never hear about the benefits, it's not surprising that people think that if you just get rid of guns, the situation will be better. So year before last, we went through and did an extensive deep dive on media coverage on defensive gun uses. You look at the top 5 newspapers in the United States, the Wall Street Journal, USA Today, the New York Times, the LA Times, the Washington Post. Between those 5 papers that year, they had a total of 10 defensive gun use stories. And the ones that they did have usually had something go wrong. The wrong person was shot, or the gun was taken away, or they got in the way of the police. Something went wrong. By contrast, they had 1,700 plus news stories about people being killed or wounded in crimes with guns. They had over 2,700 news stories of crimes being committed with guns. So, you know, and even if you add in MSNBC and CNN, you get zero defensive gun uses being reported over the year there. So somebody could think they're very well read. They keep up with the news all the time. And they would think, look, there's like no benefit from having a gun, lots of crime. So why not just get rid of guns there? We went through, if you look at all the news stories and all the sources, you'll find about 2,000 defensive gun uses on guns. But just give you an idea of how the media misses this. You know, most of the news stories on defensive gun uses involve instances where the attacker was killed. 42% of them involve instances where the attacker was wounded. Only 4% involve instances where a simple brandishing of a gun stopped the attack.
Yeah.
Now, you know, if I'm editor of a news bureau and I have two stories that come across my desk, one case, there's a dead body on the ground. In another case, let's say a woman's brandished a gun. The would-be attackers run away. No shots are fired. No dead body on the ground. You're not even sure what crime would have been committed. I think anybody would pick the first news story over the second one in order to run. But it has an impact. You know, just because something is newsworthy, you know, if it bleeds, it leads type of thing, doesn't mean that it reflects reality very well, because in reality, about 95% of defensive gun uses involve instances of simple brandishing of a gun. But you would never know that.
Can you talk? We just have like four minutes here. Can you talk about the misleading, the way they talk about mass shootings and what they qualify? You know, when most people think of a mass shooting, they think of some, you know, deranged person who goes into a school or a theater and just random havoc. But that's not. That's a small percentage of what is counted as a mass shooting. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Right. So the way the FBI defines active shooting cases are attacks that occur in public. They're not part of some other type of crime like a robbery or a gang fighting over drug turf. And they include anything from one person being targeted and missed all the way up to a mass public shooting. And the reason that they have the definition that they do is to try to get at the types of cases you're talking about, where somebody goes into a place, and, you know, a school or a mall or a movie theater, and the whole point of the attack is simply to go and kill other people. So over the 8 years from 2014 to 2021, the FBI claims that there's 252 of those cases. Now you'll hear that there's one mass shooting a day in the United States, and that data comes from some place called the Gun Violence Archive, and they define it as 3 or more people wounded. Usually mass public shootings are 4 or more people killed. That's kind of the traditional FBI definition of it. But the other thing is the vast majority of their cases, about 87% or so of the cases from the Gun Violence Archives, are drug gang fights over drug turf. And look, I think people being killed in either way is important.
Tragic. Sure, yeah.
But what they do is people will go and mention some of the high-profile mass public shootings, and then go and mention that there's one of these occurring a day, and they make
2 minutes
think that there's one of those types of attacks occurring a day, and that's simply not the case. These are overwhelmingly drug gangs fighting against each other, and most of the rest are just robberies or other things that have happened. So the causes and solutions to stopping drug gangs fighting against each other over drug turf are very, very different.
Exactly.
And, you know, and there's a reason why the media doesn't cover those very much compared to these other mass public shootings. And yet, you know, Biden or this Gun Violence Archive, which, by the way, the Gun Violence Archive was caught recently lobbying the Centers for Disease Control to remove information on defensive gun uses from their website, complaining about, just to give you an idea where the group is coming from, they were complaining that it was making it hard, by having numbers on the number of defensive gun uses, was making it harder for them to go and push for gun control.
To lobby, of course. John, where do people find more about your work and maybe support what you're doing? How do we find you?
At our website at crimeresearch.org, crimeresearch.org.
Hey, little special announcement I forgot to throw it in. SDFTI is hosting a CCW seminar on February 28th at their classroom right off Arrow Drive. Sign up and you can reserve your spot today. That's gunownersradio.com/CCW. Inland Empire gun owners, strive to be the ounce of prevention and the fight for your gun rights. And how do they do it? They do it by fundraising, getting local pro-gun candidates elected. So you need to become a member today. Go to iegunowners.com/join and join the growing number of responsible gun owners stepping up to defend our Second Amendment rights. That's iegunowners.com/join.
Awesome. That was a cool segment.
Oh, thank you.
I thought it was awesome. Didn't you have a CCW thing you had to talk about?
He just did.
Oh, he did.
I think someone wasn't paying attention.
I was purposely not paying attention. Okay, everybody, we have a prize winner. Congratulations to Loretta R. wins a Gun Owners Radio t-shirt. If you want to win a prize, join the email newsletter, gunownersradio.com/subscribe, and you'll be on the newsletter for Gun Owners Radio. Find out all about Gun Owners Radio and all the cool, interesting stuff we do. And if you just want to skip right to the prize and buy your own merch, go to Gun Owners Radio merch. That's actually shop.gunownersradio.com. Okay, next we're going to have... What are you laughing at, Dave?
You did as good as I did.
I know. We're gonna, like I said, none of this is making it live to the air. We're gonna edit all this out.
Yeah,
no,
the show will be all 7 minutes long.
That's right. Next is one of my favorite guys. ASP is one of the best YouTube channels out there, not just about guns, but in general. It really, truly is useful information. It's entertaining. And the guy who runs it and his staff are all fantastic people. None other than John Correia. How are you, sir?
I am delightful. Thank you so much for having me on today.
You are delightful. I agree.
Well, thank you. That's very kind of you.
Yeah, right. Man, I can't tell you. It's truly everything that you do is so cool, and you have such a great attitude about it, and such a good mission in life. And I can't tell you how much I and so many people around me appreciate active self-protection. You guys do such a good job. Your YouTube channel is awesome. Your staff is awesome. Your attitude is the best. Thank you so much for everything you do.
Well, man, I appreciate that. You know, our whole mission is just to help people. So the more we can do that, the more that we can, be invested in helping good people to, protect their families, the better off everyone is.
And how do you do it? For people that are listening, for the 3 people who listen who live under a rock and have no idea who you are and what you do, talk about what it is you do. How do you describe? What's your elevator speech for the channel?
Well, I mean, so if you know Active Self-Protection, it's from probably our main YouTube channel, which is helpfully called Active Self-Protection, where people send me real-life surveillance videos of defensive encounters, and we do after-action reports on them. So armed robberies, carjackings, muggings, home invasions. We also do badge cams. We post 10 videos a week to our main YouTube channel. We have a second YouTube channel that we teach skills on, handgun skills, legal and moral self-defense, some gear reviews, class reviews, those kinds of things. We also have an instructor certification program. We have a top worldwide podcast where we interview people who've been in real-life defensive encounters to get their understanding of things. We do expert witness work. So it's grown from this little thing that just started as a dream in my home office to quite an enterprise.
An enterprise. That's exactly what it is. And you're helping a lot of people. How many subscribers? Your biggest channel on YouTube, how many subscribers do you have now?
Right at about 2.86 million right now on the big channel. Second channel's got about 225,000 or so, give or take. We got, other socials and stuff too. The thing that I'm most proud of is that we are right at 1.5 billion lifetime channel views on the big channel.
Wow.
I think half of those are mine.
Yeah. Alicia listens a lot. John, you're her profile picture. Alicia is posing with you on her Facebook profile picture.
I'll have to change it back. I changed
nice.
it for my anniversary. Let me put it back.
That's how important. That's how important you are, my friend. And one of the ways you're helping, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate it, is of course we have a gun owners online auction happening where there are firearms and a couple of trips and some really cool wine. There's a bunch of really collectible wine, drinkable wine too. I'm assuming some really cool things happening. And one is we just announced the John Correia. We're auctioning you off, my friend. An experience, an ASP John Correia experience.
Yeah, we do also teach classes all around the country. As the business has gotten bigger, we kind of have fewer dates that we're able to do that. But we teach a signature evidence-based pistol skills class, evidence-based home defense shotgun, evidence-based defensive carbine, those kinds of things, and teach those all over the country. And we'd love to just engage with someone. And I'm also a cigar aficionado, so I'd love to sit and have a cigar with somebody if that's their jam. And maybe if they're into that as well, we might have a fine bourbon to enjoy with it too.
There you go. If you win, you get to go to one of his classes. You get a subscription, right? Your Patreon. You want to talk about that? What exactly?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So you get a gold patron membership for a year, which enables you to come to our monthly online seminars, and we get some other cool stuff for them too. And then hang out and with us during class, and if after class sit and have a cigar and a fine dram, and that would be a great time.
That's awesome. Anybody out there who's taken a class with John, what a great deal this is. Anyone out there who's considering taking a class with John, this is a fantastic way to take a class with John, get to know John a little bit better after the class, and support a really, really good cause. So thank you so much, John, man. Can't tell you how much I appreciate you. When are you coming back to Southern California?
I mean, that's on you, bro. We just got to figure out the dates. I don't have anything on the calendar right now, but we sure love coming out there and training and supporting the good work that you guys are doing and helping people in California to exercise their right to keep and bear arms. And, you guys are fighting the good fight every day, and hopefully in a post-Bruin world, we keep making progress. And
eating tacos. What's that taco place you like down south?
The greatest tacos on earth are Tacos El Gordo. So there's two of them in San Diego County, one in Tijuana. We'll go to San Diego County rather than Tijuana, but literally the best, like not American Mexican, but Mexican tacos in America.
I got to tell you, I was skeptical when you said that, but then you took me there, and I'm a disciple. They're super good. They're super good.
They're literally the best. We make pilgrimages to Tacos El Gordo to have them.
Tacos El Gordo have made me gordo. I'll tell you that.
Right? That's it. Chubby tacos. And we go, yes, indeed. I have become the chubby.
All right, my friend. So how do people find you? Of course, bid on our auction to find you, but how do they find your YouTube channel and how they find your website?
Outbid me. I'm the current high bidder.
Oh.
Yeah, nice. Easy way, obviously, is just find us on YouTube. Just search Active Self-Protection. There's 2 channels there. Go to activeselfprotection.com. There are links there to the YouTube channels and Facebook page and Instagram and all that stuff, or you can send us a message, and we'd love to help any way we can.
ASP. I feel like there's a marketing opportunity, like a T-shirt opportunity there, John. Like
they have shirts.
Like, look at my ASP or something like that, or I don't know.
Yeah,
cover your ass.
We try not to go that route, but I totally hear you.
John, thank you so much, man. Appreciate you very, very much.
Likewise. We'll talk soon.
All right, man. Take care.
Take care, guy. All right, hey, we're going to take a quick break.
How cool is that? Wait, we're not ready for a break yet.
We're
We still got
we're done. No,
we're done?
I'm gone.
All right.
No, I'm only
I wanted
kidding.
to sit there and
Go ahead.
relish. How cool is that? John Correia from
love John.
ASP. He's the best, isn't he?
Yeah.
She's the high bidder.
You're the high
I'm
bidder?
the high bidder at the moment.
Nice.
We'll see.
$7,482.
Are we allowed to ask what the high bid is right now?
It's at the next increment would be 600.
Dude, that's a steal. If someone outbids you right now and wins, that's a steal.
Yep.
So
I worked with them last year up in Colorado. It was amazing.
Nice.
Yep.
Well, there you go.
Now,
you want to ruin Alicia's day.
ruin Alicia's day for $600?
$605, and you got it. Well, Sage Tree gets it. Since 2005, Sage Tree has been helping companies with websites that look great, work great, and get leads. So stop being frustrated by your website and get one that you're proud to share. Contact Sage Tree today to get a website that makes the phone ring. Getting started is easy. Just call 866-728-9100. That's 866-728-9100. Let them fix your website today.
Awesome. How cool was that interview?
That was a great one.
I really liked it. I liked it. This is a good show. You ever just get halfway through a show?
And then you think, God, we need 4 more hours.
And this is like, wow, this is a good show. I mean, half these shows.
We'll have to thank the producer.
I'm just like, oh my God, I'm holding my nose. They're horrible.
I know. Did you know this is episode 340?
I didn't know that. So how many years have we been on the air now then? 340 divided by 52 is...
Go ahead.
Like
You're the banker.
It's like 604 years we've been.
I'm an English.
Something like that.
6.5.
There you go. 6.5 years.
Smarty pants.
All right. Our next guest is with Franklin Armory, which is a fantastic gun manufacturer. His name's Dan, and we're going to talk to him a little bit. I think we're going to talk a little bit about SB2. We're going to talk a lot about Franklin Armory, and then, of course, we're going to talk about California's ridiculous roster. So, Dan, are you there?
I am here. Hi, guys.
Hey, man. Thanks for coming on the show. How are you doing?
Oh, I am fantastic. It's a great Sunday, and thank you for having me on. How are you?
Couldn't be better. So talk a little bit about Franklin Armory. Tell us about who are you guys and what do you do best?
Oh, boy. What do we do best? Well, I guess it depends on who you ask, right? According to a lot of Californians, we like to help ensure they are able to as freely and fully exercise their Second Amendment rights as possible. You can talk about some of the new products and stuff that we have recently rolled out, so that we can always serve our California brothers and sisters. But as an organization, I think it really falls down to safeguarding the God-given right that every human being has to protect self and property. That's what Franklin Armory's enduring mission is, and it's straightforward. I mean, you have organizations like, Second Amendment Foundation and CRPA, the California Rifle Pistol Association, newer ones like FRAC, the Firearms Regulatory Accountability Coalition, which we're a member of, that are all doing the same thing from the legal side. We do it from the innovative manufacturing of firearms, parts, and accessories.
What's an example of some of those innovative parts and accessories that help support California? Because you guys really do a great job, and I can't tell you how much folks in California appreciate that. A lot of manufacturers, I don't want to say a lot of, it just feels like we get ignored sometimes, and that we're an afterthought, or that people take their frustration out on the end users, us, and you guys, I would say, are right up there with going above and beyond trying to service California. So can you talk a little bit about some of those products and some of the things you do for California?
Sure. I'd be happy to. And first of all, I appreciate you saying that. It's reminiscent of the most recent SHOT Show, where we had tons of folks from California coming up to us saying the same thing, which is, in response to our most recent California product, the CA320, which we can talk about here in a bit. But a little bit of background, Franklin Armory was founded in California, Morgan Hill to be precise. And our founding partners, Jay and Karen, husband and wife team, advent hunters and great business people who believe in free enterprise and the role the private sector plays in ensuring that the American dream continues on. When things were happening in the California front back in about 2010, with the regulations against what has become known as the assault weapon, it's the most versatile platform ever created. And our founders were like, no, you were not going to make this, illegal. You were not going to prevent us at the time, California residents, from, exercising our rights. And so Franklin Armory became launched back in 2010 as one of the very first California compliant AR manufacturers. We were both a manufacturer and a distributor. And then fast forward, and we can get into some of that history later. But today, we're still putting out products, even though the company, is unfortunate. We started the migration over the beautiful Sierra Nevada mountains to a small town called Minden, Nevada, back in about 2018, 2019, manufacturing first, because California is cracking down on manufacturers. We didn't want to be, left, behind enemy lines, if you want to say, if that were to happen. And but eventually the environment just became so hostile that the rest of the operations had to move over to Minden as well. But we've never forgot our California brothers and sisters. Back in I want to believe it was 2018, we were able to get the very first AR pistol listed on the California handgun roster, and that was
how did you do that? Because that's very impressive. How did that happen? Can you tell that story a little bit? Like why you guys and no one else?
For sure. Well, the how is interesting, and I can actually roll that into a conversation about the more recent one, CA320. So the how goes about, and again, we'll get to the why here in a second, right? The how is pretty straightforward. California Department of Justice has its litany of requirements. So we abide by them directly, straight by the book. Between our founders and our engineers and our attorneys, we look at the laws, we understand them, we understand what is prohibited, but we design products to meet specific specifications. And so in the case of the CA7, it was a AR-style pistol. However, not to be a semi-automatic pistol, it was able to be put on the roster from a safety perspective from being a single shot. So, each fire requires another racking. However, that is able to get the AR platform without restrictions, to California residents. So you fast forward to the CA320. In this case, it's very interesting.
Actually,
the process,
I want to get into the 320. I want to talk about it thoroughly,
sure,
but let's back up, because we still have okay. So your AR pistol has no. Let's just talk about it like someone's never seen it or heard of it or anything. Like feed it to them like they're 5 years old. It's got no stock, right? It's just got the tube in the back.
Correct.
And then how long is the barrel?
So we actually have 3 models of our California compliance. So we were not only the first pistol listed on the roster, which is the CA7. So that's a 7.5-inch barrel, and it's chambered in 5.56. But we also, a few years, I think it was just actually 1 year later, were able to get the CA11 and CA12 listed on the roster as well. Same concept. It's an AR pistol. It's a shorter barrel. The CA7 is a 7.5. The CA11, I believe, is 11.5. But that's chambered in 300 blackout. And then the CA12 is a 12. Is it 12? 12.5. I think it's a 12-inch barrel. That is chambered in 350 Legend.
And it's single.
It's
single shot. 350 Legend. That's an interesting caliber. Okay, so it's single shot, which means pull the trigger and then you have to charge the handle. Then pull the trigger and charge the handle. Correct.
Correct. And the reason for that being is, again, California's onerous regulations. Right.
No. Totally get it.
If you're going to get a new pistol listed on the roster, and this is really key, not to get the other 3 kicked off, which has been more recently. Again, this goes into the process with the CA320. I don't believe the legislation had been written back for the CA7, 11, and 12. But as a single shot, it does not remove the 3 semi-automatic firearms from the roster. And so, again, that approach was able to get these firearms past the the testing requirements, the drop test, firing, etc. But because it was not a semi-automatic, it does not have to have the
microstamp,
chamber indicator, the microstamping, which is ludicrous, right? So yes, it didn't have to have any of that stuff, and it was still able to get the firearm.
And it has it uses detachable. It's got a detachable magazine, right? Like regular AR mags.
Correct. Yes, it can be because it's not a semi-automatic.
And no fin.
And no fin. So no fin, single shot, no stock, 7, 10, or 12, I think I got that right. Barrel, 3 different calibers. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. That's fantastic. And there's no microstamp requirement. None of that. So that's really, really fantastic. That's an awesome thing. And it's totally California legal, on sale now, right, at FFL. So you guys are selling those right now at shops in California.
Correct.
No assault weapon ban limitations because it's not an assault weapon. It doesn't fit the definition of assault weapon. You don't have to get the microstamp because it doesn't fit the definition of the type of semi-automatic pistol that requires a microstamp. So you guys have complied with all the laws in order to make it to where someone can have an AR pistol in California, and I think that's fantastic. And that has led to the CA320. Now talk about the CA320.
Yeah, absolutely. So probably about 2 years in the making, right, was a design that looked at one of the more popular, platforms and handguns, the Sig P320, which of course California Department of Justice would not put it on its roster for a number of different reasons, but that they're working out between themselves. However, again, we looked at the ability to follow California laws strictly by the book and make sure that we could produce a 320 style gun that could pass all of the strict California requirements, including, again, drop testing, firing, reliability, etc. And that basically became the CA320, which is real simply described 3 parts. A factory SIG 320 slide, a factory SIG 320 fire control unit. That's the serialized part, right? So these are bought, purchased, virgin directly from SIG. And then the third part, the catch, right? That's what allows it to be listed on the California roster, which is a proprietary grip module designed by Franklin Armory that then makes that particular handgun, again, a single shot, 9mm, 320, that can now be legally sold through every retailer in the state of California.
Is there a better tool that empowers a woman to defend against an attacker that's 100 pounds bigger than her?
Nope.
Right. That's why it's so important for women to learn how to defend themselves with the most effective self-defense tool ever invented. For women, led by women, the Not Me program is designed to help with training, purchasing a gun, and getting a concealed carry permit. And guess what? It's totally free. To sign up, go to notmesd.org. The program is also available in Orange County and the Inland Empire. Get help today at notmesd.org.
So we just found out off air that Alicia here is extremely excited about the California 320.
Super. Yeah, about 2 months ago, I saw a little
blurb,
a little release, a little teaser that Franklin Armory was releasing this, and so I couldn't wait. And then, waiting for it.
Hey, Franklin Armory, give her the gun. Let her shoot the hell out of it. Come back.
I think
and we'll give you a great review. Is it in the mail?
I was going to say, I think we can arrange a test and evaluation model for sure.
Well, Alicia would be great. She's an instructor in town. She'd be fantastic for that. Actually, I didn't realize how excited she was, but she's very excited about it.
And she's a world-class gardener.
She's a world-class
so
gardener.
Don't be slacking.
That's awesome, man.
I'll tell you what, I'd be happy to do that. Not only, again, like I said, with Franklin Armory being originally founded in California, but I too. Really, I grew up hunting in Nevada, but I spent a lot of years in the Bay Area and San Diego. And actually, my first handgun ever purchased was from the Shootist in Murrieta, in your Inland Empire area. Yeah. So, I love what you guys are doing down there. I actually went through training at at Iron Sights in Oceanside.
Oh yeah.
So to be able to put one of these in your guys' hand to test and evaluate, it would be my honor.
There you go.
Well, we're happy to do it. As far as I know, we're the only gun show in Southern California that's on AM, FM, and podcast. So we have a few people listening. So
yeah, we'll make
happy to help.
Yeah, we'll get the word out.
Yeah, we'll have our people get in touch with your people.
So what made you pick this particular model? What about it made you guys do this one?
You talking about for the CA320?
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, it's obviously we are a business. So we are in the business of satisfying market demand, and the P320 is a very popular firearm.
Yeah.
It is so sad and unfortunate that the largest state population-wise in the nation is prohibited from having a very viable and quality firearm. And so, again, going back to our roots and understanding that safeguarding that very natural and God-given right to protect self and property, we were going to do what we could to provide Californians with that ability.
So people that aren't familiar with the 320, what size is it? Is it a compact? Is it a subcompact? Like, is it good for carry? Is it better for home? Or how would you describe its main purpose and comparable size?
Well, actually, my understanding is it comes in 3 sizes. There's a full size, and I don't off the top of my head, so forgive me if there's SIG enthusiasts out there who are going to yell at the screen or the radio if I get these numbers wrong. So it's probably better not even say a number. There's a full size, there's a carry, and there's a compact. Same concept. This is very popular with SIG on the 320, which is the civilian version of the M17 and 18. Yep. Which have been requisitioned by, believe all branches of the U.S. military.
I believe right.
And so, the 320 along with the 365 are a new approach to firearm manufacturing from SIG that looks that takes the modular approach, right? And as such, and again, this would be a question for SIG, but my understanding is that between engineering and legal, there was the outcome of the fire control unit, right, which is kind of the second piece to our creation, is the serialized part now. And that fire control unit and a slide and a grip module comprise the entire gun. And so it's a very attractive model to, people, and I mean that term, accurately, the people, right? We, the people. It's a very attractive proposition for anyone looking for a firearm to defend self, to defend home, to defend property. It's people like shooting it, and so we hope that more Californians get an opportunity to do so.
Fantastic. So I have a question for you. Being that you were rooted in California at one point, what is your take and your interpretation on just the sham that is the California roster? Tell me a little bit what you think of that.
Well, I think you already, nailed or hammered the nail on the head by calling it a sham, right? So without getting on my soapbox, there's challenges. We're waiting to see what happens with it. There is a train of thought that we may not have a roster in a couple of years. We would love to see that.
That's the goal.
Or there could be a different version of it. It's kind of like after Bruin, right? Didn't stop New York or Jersey or anybody else really from trying to then throw more laws at an unconstitutional approach. But, there's a saying, and it's kind of like I can do my best Forrest Gump impersonation, stupid tyranny is as stupid tyranny does, right? That's just what they're going to do. So the best we can do is, again, to stand up for the people and ensure that no matter what tyrannical efforts are thrown at us, that we, and again, it's no accident that our business, our company, is named after one of the most foremost world-renowned inventors of his time, as well as a very well-respected and venerable statesman, right? Benjamin Franklin. We have a number of his famous quotes that kind of help to drive our ethos, if you will, as a brand, as well as some of our strategy. And it really comes down to, we will not tire, right? If that's what we have to be faced with, we will not tire. One of my favorites, the company itself, not speaking for Jay, but sometimes I get to. That's our founder. Those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. It's a pretty popular one that a lot of people attribute to different things, but it's very much applied here, right? Especially when it comes to nationwide, global, universal, if you will, discussions about firearms and their role in the Second Amendment. But one of my favorites is actually a little bit lesser known. It's rebellion against tyrants is obedience to God.
There you go.
And depending on your belief in, the afterworld, spirituality, what have you, I guess it doesn't really matter. But in my opinion, that is what we as human beings should be doing anytime there's tyranny. We must stand up. We must stand up for what's right. And to know that our fight is just and good keeps us going along. And in the case of Franklin Armory, again, taking not just the innovative approach from Benjamin Franklin, our namesake, but the statesman approach. I really, one of the reasons why I really, actually a longer story, but worked very hard to try to find my way over to Franklin Armory after spending a little time in the firearms industry, amongst others, is because the approach, it's much different. There's a lot of companies out there that will develop a product, run with it for the longest time until they get a phone call or a knock on the door, right? Mm-hmm. And they say, well, you can't do that. And then they're, caught between a rock and a hard place. Franklin Armory takes a different approach, just like with the CA320. We did our homework. We dotted our I's and crossed our T's, and we submitted to the state a firearm we knew was legal. We knew abided by the regulations, and we got it approved within the time frame because, just like any other regulatory industry, or agency, whether it be California DOJ or the ATF, they'll always try to push the limits on it. But we can push back and say, time's up. We know it's within the regulations. Give us the letter. Let us know we can move forward and market this, right? Because otherwise, what type of free economy do we have? Mm-hmm. And so that as an organization, oh, man, it feels so good to work for a company like this.
Well, I'd like to thank you as a California. Thank you for the job that you guys are doing. And you alluded to at some point having that California roster disappear, which is, of course, ultimately what we all want. But I'm curious if and when that does happen, what would that look like for your company? How would your focus shift? What would your new movement be?
Well, the roster is just one, mm-hmm. right? I mean, again, we're looking at history right now, and without going down this rabbit hole, but gosh, I'm sure you could as well. The three of you talk about this to no end. The concept of limiting Second Amendment rights is relatively new, and it just was not an issue before. The concept of why we have a Second Amendment was always very clear. And now we're looking at a different environment. And I don't think just the roster going away is going to change that. That's one fight, right? That's one thing that we can hopefully have. If you're familiar with, Franklin Armory's binary trigger system.
Correct.
Binary firing system, yeah. So there's a lot of other fronts to continue to expand on that. I mean, right now, Californians are not able to purchase that product. We'd like to see that changed, of course.
What is developing? Talk about what the binary system. Talk about what it is and why we can't purchase it in California for those who don't know.
For sure. So, without getting into the rules of why you can't, I mean, it's just because almighty state of California says you can't, right? But in the vast majority of other states, I think all but 10 or 11, possibly 12, including the District of Columbia, binary trigger system, binary firing system, actually, known better as, again, binary triggers. Probably heard that terminology. So it's creation, Franklin Armory, that looked at, again, the definition of a semi-automatic trigger. One fire based upon one mechanism, right? So one pull, bang. You release, it resets for another pull, bang. That's the definition of a semi-automatic trigger. What we looked at was if that's the definition of an action, right, of a mechanism, then if you were releasing the trigger, that's another mechanism.
True. And
that provides another opportunity for a fire. And so one pull, bang, one release, bang. It's still classified by the ATF as a semi-automatic trigger. It falls right in with all the regulations, with all the laws. We even have a letter from the ATF classifying us as a semi-automatic trigger. And so it is a innovative, brand new class of triggers. And we're also creating entire new classes of firearms themselves, which we can get into in a little bit, which really redefine how actions work. And creating a new action takes a lot of innovation.
Awesome job.
We got to get you back, or you got to get a radio show, one of the two. We're not 100% sure. We do want to get you back. You have some really great news and some great product. How do people get a hold of you?
FranklinArmory.com for all our information, but of course, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Okay.
Got a lot of great information there as well.
Cool. We look forward to having the kid over here shoot your gun, which should be exciting.
Very cool. Yeah, your people, as you said, get
my
with
people
me.
get in touch with your
It's
people.
just me.
That's what I said. We'll get in touch with you.
And we'll be happy to make that happen for sure.
Buddy.
Thank you so much for the time.
Look forward to the review. Well, you know, a self-defense event happens in seconds. It does. And the time it takes to listen to this commercial, your life could change forever. I pray you're never forced to shoot in self-defense, but if you must, then you must be ready. That's why the USCCA exists, because every responsibly armed American should have the training and education to navigate a self-defense situation. And should you ever need it, the 24/7 critical response team is right there for you. To discover more about the USCCA, visit uscca.com/GOR. Act now, because the life you save could be your own. That's uscca.com/GOR.
All right, it's time for everybody's favorite segment, Stump My Nephew. My nephew, Sam the Gun Man, turns out is pretty good at gun trivia. So if you write us and send a question, we use it on the air, we'll give you a hat or shirt. If you stump my nephew, then we'll give you a cool special prize. He does not get the question in advance, so the first time he hears the question is over the air here live. So, Sam, you there?
Yeah, how are you guys?
Fantastic, man. Have you been listening to the show?
No, not tonight. Why?
Oh, great. Thanks for that. What? How flattering. So we've had John Lott, we had John Correia, and then we had Franklin Armory. This is like the best show we've ever done.
Oh, man, I'll have to go and catch it on YouTube once it goes up.
Now we're going to wrap up with Sam.
So, Sam, do you know John
Best for
Lott?
last.
So don't mess it up here, John. Or
Sam.
Sam,
do you know John Lott? Or you?
No, I don't.
John, well, you know who John Lott is, the more guns, less crime guy?
Yeah, I've heard the name, but I couldn't put a face to it.
Well, listen to this show, and then next Sunday tell me that doesn't sound like you when you're his age. And that's a true compliment. That is a true compliment.
It is a compliment. He's just very numbers oriented and was just really fascinating.
Yeah,
he knew his stuff up and down, left and right.
And this is a trick question.
It's not. It is not.
It is a trick question.
You're yeah.
David.
All right. Anyway, all right. So now we're ready to ask the question. Alicia, you want to go?
Sure.
Because Dave is not doing it.
Dave's messing it all
David.
up.
I think Sam needs his own intro song. Sam, if you could pick your own song for your intro, what would it be?
Yeah. What's your walk-up song?
I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, think about that,
All right.
too.
All right, we'll come back to that. All right, so our question today comes from Larry from Milpitas. And the question is, what is the Little Joe?
Larry, thanks for writing in. What is the Little Joe?
Yes.
See,
I think he got me on this one.
Ooh, what?
You never heard of that, the Little Joe?
It rings a bell, but I can't. I want to say no. You know what? I'm not even going to guess, because then I'll make myself sound like even more of an idiot.
So Alicia's going to read the answer, but I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to get some kind of hate-filled text.
You're already getting the evil eye from Dave.
From Sam's manager.
Because you gave
Why
a
is
trick
this?
question.
Is this a trick question?
It's not a trick question. It's just I don't know if it's necessarily.
It starts off with it's
firearm.
not gun. It's not.
So
Go ahead.
here's the
Go ahead.
answer.
Read it, Alicia.
So the answer is the Little Joe is actually not a pistol. Wah, wah, wah. But it is a pistol-shaped crossbow developed by the British during World War II. It was intended to be a silent but deadly weapon to take out enemy foes. It was eventually retired because it was too slow at only 5 to 7 shots per minute due to a complicated reload process. It is also a good reminder of why crossbows were discarded in favor of guns.
What do you think, Sam?
Trick.
I mean, it
that
sounds unfair when I say it, but I'm inclined to say it's a trick question because it is not firearm related.
It's gun shaped.
Exactly.
It's gun-esque.
Then here's the thing.
I saw one of those in a photo once, which is why the name sounded familiar. But yeah, it was a tough question. There was no way I was going to get that.
Right. It's far enough away from being a firearms question. It's not. Well, it's not legit. It's not legit.
So Larry from Milpitas, you will send us a check for $500.
Are you still going to give him the hat or the shirt?
No, we'll probably give him a hat or shirt.
Trick question.
Although Milpitas is way up, that's the Bay Area. So,
Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to give him a hard time for asking a question that's not technically firearm related. I'm going to give you a hard time for choosing it.
Yeah,
You go.
Who's running this show?
All right, Schwartz, let's write a check for $500 to this radio
Not a
station.
problem. You need it to clear?
It's in the mail.
Is that an option?
All right. Yeah, no. All right, my friend. Awesome job. Let's talk about what article. What's your most recent article about?
As I said before, I write them out of order, so I don't remember which one went up most recently.
He does that to you every time.
Yeah.
Probably just go look.
Was that the one about? It wasn't the one about Gavin Newsom.
Seemed to me like we talked about Gavin last week.
I don't remember.
Yeah, we talked about.
All right, next week, before you come on the air, go look at the blog and see which one the most recent one was posted.
The title is "The Industry Lobby Fallacy."
Oh, that
Thank
one.
you,
That was
Brendan.
a fun one.
Fallacy.
Yeah.
Sorry.
His Google finger was faster than mine.
Yeah.
I tried.
Thank you, Brendan.
Okay.
Mess
So-
with Brendan.
Yeah.
The elevator pitch here is that anti-gunners like to draw this line that the NRA, they're just paid off by the manufacturers to lobby for lax gun laws so that they can drive up sales. Well, that's really not true for a variety of reasons, and I break those down in the article. So if you want to hear more about that, go to the SDCGO blog or the blogs of the sister organizations and take a look.
That's awesome. What inspired you?
I was bored, and that was the first thing that came to mind.
Have you looked at SB? Have you looked at how closely have you looked at SB2?
I've taken a look at it. I'm not sure if I want to write a blog post on that specifically because it gets to kind of a bigger issue about concealed carry laws. But I think I will definitely at least touch on it. But I probably won't write a blog post specifically about that.
Yeah, it's pretty ugly, everybody. We talked a little bit about SB2. We talked to John Lott about it. I don't think we touched with John Correia or anything.
We did not.
SB2 is pretty ugly. It's basically making every place outside of your home is a sensitive area, unless the person that owns that sensitive area makes the decision and posts that it's not a sensitive area, which is not how sensitive areas work.
And if you look up and you read through the Senate bill, you read through the legalese, it's hard to find that truth. It looks sexy. It looks like, hey, they're just implementing more training. They hide that in there. And that's the fear, I think, with people that are not going to take the time to understand the bill.
Yeah, it's pretty ugly.
Well, really, one of the biggest things that stuck out to me, if you've got 30 seconds, is that
Sure.
It flies directly in the face of what Gavin Newsom said in a speech a few weeks ago, that he's fine with legal, responsible gun ownership. Well, no, he's not, and it's blatant that he isn't.
He really is a piece of work, man. I mean, the guy is so. I try really hard in the world of politics to separate, personal opinion or of someone personally with their political opinions. But there are a few people out there that are really just truly, they're in politics, and yes, we disagree politically on some certain things, and they're also a bad person. You know what I mean? Like, I don't assume that someone who disagrees with me is automatically a bad person because they disagree with me. But Newsom is really truly bad news, and that lack of character comes out when he is passing, one of these, horrible restrictive laws and can't explain himself, and he's just appalled that anybody questions him, right. And it's. like you said, it's important to separate someone's personality and who they are from their political opinions. It's important to be professional, but in this case, and in a few other cases, I think it's important to really truly understand how they are personally, what their character is when you're looking at some of their initiatives. And he's bad news. And by the way, flip side, a lot of people I agree
2
with,
minutes,
80-90% of the time are bad people too.
Right.
So anyway, thank you, Sam. Awesome job.
Great job, bud.
Sorry about the question. We'll kick it up a notch. I promise.
Yeah, who's the guy running this show anyway?
I know, man.
He's not in the room. He's over in the other room.
Alicia made me do it.
Alicia.
Sure, way to deflect blame. Thanks for having me on anyway. See you next week.
Take care, buddy.
Thanks,
Take care.
Sam.
Good night.